Root rot in orchids is a very common problem. All orchid lovers have encountered it at some point, and although the complete absence of roots doesn't always lead to the entire loss of the plant, and almost always, if caught in time, is a fairly easily corrected situation, it still requires certain knowledge and experience. It is absolutely clear to everyone that a plant without a well developed healthy root system will not grow successfully, much less bloom. So, what should we do? Basically, searching online just gives you explanations as of the reasons leading to the rotting processes in your roots and recommendations on how to avoid this. But how do we restore the plant and grow roots as quickly as possible? Well, this is where those numerous methods on YouTube and all over the internet using magical means of growing awaits us. I just happened to have an orchid that I decided to experiment with. I chose one extravagant method and, of course, a magical remedy for myself, and I got to work. I will show you the dates here on my tablet to ensure the chronology for the purity of the experiment. So, following the recommendations from one video, from one channel with 1 million subscribers and views, I repeat everything step by step. To begin, I clean the orchid from the old rotten roots, and then I wash for a very long time and very thoroughly in water. The author of this idea pays great attention to this, and I'm not sure why. Then I cut medium-sized potatoes into pieces, and I covered them with a liter of boiled water. And then I added 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder into this water, exactly like it was recommended in the video. When the solution has cooled off, I filtered the pieces of potatoes through a sifter, I let it sit, and I soaked my orchid in it the same way as it was shown in the video. However, judging by this kind of production, you can practically use anything you have in the kitchen. In these and similar videos, both on this channel and on competing similar channels, you can easily find almost everything, from all kinds of spices, garlic, banana, onion, and potato peelings, where the authors claim that this can all be used as stimulants for growth for orchid roots. All you have to do is click on one of these videos, and immediately the YouTube algorithm will give you hundreds of similar videos. But this one attracted me with its weird way of securing rootless orchids in the neck of a bottle. And with the diligence of an excellent student, without missing a single moment, I do everything the exact same way. Well, everything is ready. I have sent everything to a warm and sunny windowsill, and I begin to wait. In the video that I watched, the author shows a bunch of grown roots after just 3 weeks. But once again, I am disappointed. Not only after 3 weeks, not even after a month, after 2 months, not even after 3.5 months did roots appear. Not only roots, but not even primordia or embryonic roots. The young orchid surprises me with its endurance, though, amazing vitality. But I waited and waited, and the orchid did not grow any roots. But it also didn't die. I patiently refilled the evaporated water to the required level for a period of almost 5 months, and the cotton gauze water liner was completely covered with black mold. But how do these inventive deceivers, the creators of these fake videos, continue to deceive us? Without exception, all the videos on YouTube using supposedly magical means for growing roots are a hoax. No such thing exists for orchids. And how is it possible to fertilize, for example, epiphytes with aerial roots that often shoot out of the pot in different directions? Now, I'm sure some of you are saying right now, how is this true? Fertilizers for orchids can be bought in garden centers or in stores. You're right, but before I get into the explanation of why I say so, I want to show you how these types of videos and similar content is produced, with which the entire internet is littered. I assure you it's not that difficult. You just need to cut off the healthy roots of another orchid and glue it on. Look at how great it turns out. In general, now in the era of artificial intelligence, Photoshop, silicone, you can create such a video in 5 minutes. Then just promote a little. For example, bribe to push tens of thousands of views, comments, and likes, and everything's ready. The YouTube algorithm will get itself caught on and begin to throw all this garbage out to naive viewers, completely crowding out the channels where people are actually trying to share real info about orchid care. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of such channels on YouTube with millions of subscribers and views. I don't know why they do this, or how they still manage to continue fooling their audience. I don't know whether this is done to make money, or with the goal of just messing with people's minds. But one thing I know is that demand creates supply, and it's quite sad. But still, why, after a whole 4.5 months, has my orchid not grown any roots? Not even one or two, not even the rudimentary tubercles, which usually precede the appearance of roots, none of them are visible even under a microscope. I'm going to try to explain from a biological point of view why this happens. Phalaenopsis orchids are epiphytic plants with aerial roots. These aerial roots are completely self-sufficient, and in fact, orchids with a well-developed root system are able to exist for a long time without any substrate at all. The aerial roots of orchids are involved in photosynthesis, and the unique layer of velamen cells on the surface of the root is actually the real substrate, or soil, if you like, for orchids, since it is home to a large number of symbiotic microorganisms such as fungi, microscopic algae, bacteria, and shortly, velamen is capable to be inhabited by the same microbiota that populates the soil. But despite this, direct contact with surfaces such as tree bark, moss-covered rocks, or leaf litter is still necessary for epiphytic orchids. This is what we observe in nature as proof. Why is this needed? Is it just for support, or is there something else going on? This is necessary for the exchange of microbiotic genetic information and microbial diversity. So what's wrong in our case? Well, the fact of the matter is that the complete absence of roots on my sick orchid and the complete absence of any substrate, this orchid is doomed to die. I have already said that fertilizers for orchids cannot exist. All orchid nutrition is indirect, and the plant receives nutrients mainly through nitrogen-fixing bacteria, which in turn comes from organisms inhabiting velamen, and photosynthesis is the final mechanism for the formation of sugars. Without microbiota, no fertilizer or stimulator will work. It'll show some benefits only if added to substrate filled with microorganisms, and only through their metabolism. Let's take a drop of water that has been in this vase for 4.5 months and look at it under a microscope. Unfortunately, I could not detect anything existing except for scraps of mold fungi that got caught on the cotton gauze that was covered in them, dust particles, and slimy bacteria. Doesn't look very good. Now, for comparison, I'll take a drop of liquid from my 2-year-old terrarium with mosses and I'll place it on a glass slide. And I see a lot of life here. Everything is constantly moving. I see microscopic algae, fungi, spore-forming bacteria, ciliates, dinoflagellates, rotifers, nematodes, copepods of several species, as well as the oligocada worm, Aeolosoma. Aeolosomes are simply necessary for this kind of closed biosystem, such as my 2-year-old moss terrarium, as they purify the water from dead plant particles and dead microorganisms. Take a look here. You can see algae inside of this worm because it's feeding on it. They can easily be seen even at lower magnifications. And I find at least 2 different species of springtails here. Please meet my team of terrarium cleaners. Springtails are involved in the formation of mycorrhizal relationships between fungi and plants, so they are necessary for orchids since the aerial roots of orchids simply cannot exist without endo and ectomycorrhizal relationships with fungi. I think it is now clear why new roots did not appear on my sick orchid, and this orchid is doomed to die if I do not provide it with normal conditions, for example if I don't place it back into my terrarium for rehabilitation.